when they come back. Too often we've seen examples where children have been counseled out of their charter schools back into public schools, and it has a direct impact on the teachers who are trying to do their jobs and are held to high standards on testing when children leave and come back and they don't know what they've been taught or where they are. Now, parental choice is a great catchword, and it's an argument that's often used for charter schools, but it is not fair to the public schools that are continuing to lose valuable resources to these charter schools.
Thank you. Councilman Cooper?
Well, it's an interesting question, great question. I'll tell you, surprisingly, you are only the second person to ask that question to me as a candidate for mayor. Because I think the debate was intense a few years ago about this, but the legislature has made its view and Nashville has moved on about charters or not charters. And the reality is charters should not in any way deter our more traditional public schools from getting resources and becoming better. But I think the question gets to our willingness to work together and go forward as a school system. Charter school students are public school students also, and to get everybody, the clock here is keeping my eye on the side, but to get everybody moving forward. And but again, I'm relieved that the debate is not charter, not charter. That was a difficult moment. I think we are beyond it, and
thank you,
that's
Councilman
exciting.
Cooper. Dr. Swain?
I believe in parental choice. I think every parent is the best person to decide whether or not they want to homeschool, use a charter school, or a private school. And I don't think that there has to necessarily be a tension between charter schools and public schools. I think public schools should be fully funded, but the parents should be able to make the decision. And a lot of the teachers in metro public schools send their children to private schools. They shouldn't be condemned for that. Ideally, we would have great public schools. They would want their children there. But in the meantime, I even know families that they homeschool one child. They may send one child to a charter school. They may have one in public school. Parents are the best people to know what's best for their children.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swain. And Mayor Briley?
I think it's the job of the mayor and everybody in this room and the school board to make sure that every single child has an opportunity to get well educated in our city. The fact of the matter is right now, for some families, a charter option is better than their zoned option. I am never going to stand and look a parent in the eye and say, will you wait just a little bit longer for us to get a good zone school for your child? I will never, ever do that, because we in our city for too long have neglected black and brown kids who have not gotten a fair shake because their zone school was not good enough for them. So I am committed to making sure we work hard to improve the quality of every single public school in our town, but you'll never find me asking a parent to wait.
Thank you, Mayor Briley. I'd like to welcome now Sanit Tesfamariam, who is a rising junior at Antioch.
Hello, my name is Sanit Tesfamariam, and my question is, as mayor, what would you do to help support the mental and social emotional needs of our students?
And the order will be Councilman Cooper, Dr. Swain, Mayor Briley, and Representative Clemens.
Well, thank you. As I was saying in my opening remarks, we need to find the money, the $1 million, for the school board's request for the increase for social and emotional learning. And we can do it by finding savings in the whole budget, because we're really not managed in a way to do that. Now, I'll be happy if you want to go to my website in time, you'll see all these suggestions for how to do that. But the answer is yes, it's not that much money, and it's of vital importance.
Thank you. Dr. Swain?
$1 million, I mean, in today's economy, is like a drop in the bucket. I think that it's bigger than, just putting $1 million in one pot, that school counselors, the environment in the school, whether or not that there are children that are being disruptive. There's so many factors that feed into that, but I think we have to look at everything comprehensively. And so, again, like the mayor only has limited control of what takes place in the school, but I would encourage the school board and everyone involved to sort of rethink how you do things. I don't think $1 million in a pot that says emotional, whatever you just say it, that is sufficient. I think you have to look at everything comprehensively. And as mayor, that's what I would encourage the decision makers to do.
Thank you. Mayor Briley.
Sure. So, number one, this is a critically important issue for the district. When I've met with the Mayor's Youth Council, this is one of the issues we've talked about again and again. And when I was at Dwight's Creek earlier this year as part of a tour of priority schools, I saw firsthand how going to school can actually be as traumatic as not going. I mean, we have schools where the trauma is there. We have got to have a comprehensive plan to confront it. And I'm committed to working with the board. I know we have many board members here tonight, and with the director to make sure we have a comprehensive plan to address this issue. Now, just this year, or recently, maybe last year, the discipline strategy for MNPS changed, as it should have. But we didn't provide our teachers and administrators the support they needed to implement that plan. That's the kind of holistic thought and approach we need to take when we make these changes in the district.
Thank you, Mayor Briley. Representative Clemens.
Can we repeat the question?
Mayor, what would you do to help support the mental and social emotional needs of our students?
Well, thank you. That's a very important question, and I've been working on mental health issues in the state legislature for the last 5 years, and I've been proud to pass some mental health parity legislation as well. The social and emotional well-being of our students is of key concern, and it should be a key focus of ours. Now, I was surprised to hear the mayor say that we couldn't wait any longer. I mean, he wouldn't ask parents to wait any longer to send their children to a quality school. He's passed two budgets, or introduced two budgets that underfunds our school and underfunds SEL programs in all the public schools in Nashville. This is something that must be addressed, because until we address the issues in the community that are facing our children, they're going to continue to pose additional challenges to teachers, and we have an opportunity in our schools to address those and add counselors as well in each and every public school.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from DeMarcus Foster, a rising sophomore at Pearl Cone, to ask the next question.
Hi, my name is DeMarcus. My question is, what is your vision for funding our public schools?
And we'll start with Dr. Swain and then work our way around to Councilman Cooper. Dr. Swain?
Well, the first thing that I would like to point out is that metropolitan public schools gets almost $1 billion a year. That's a lot of money. And the school board makes the decision about how that money is allocated. And every year we hear the arguments that they need more money for teachers' pay, but yet the money doesn't always reach the teachers, the bus drivers, the cafeteria workers, the school staff. And so I think that one of the things we need to do is make sure that the money we have is spent in the way it should be spent, that there's not a lot of waste. And we know that there's been some waste by the school board, so there has to be accountability and transparency. But when it comes to getting more resources for the schools, I would go to the private sector and include them, as well as cutting. The revenues are up in the city. Revenues are up. If we were not wasting so much money, the city itself could give more towards education.
Thank you,
but
Dr.
at the same time, you got to spend well what you have.
Mayor Briley?
So I'm committed to making sure that we fund our schools at an appropriate level and compensate our employees at an appropriate level. And I've talked to the director and to many of the board members about doing that. But what happened this year would not have done that. Let's just be clear about that. What the council voted on would have given a 1% raise to teachers. In steps. Now, not every teacher gets a step. So all those teachers who live in Nashville and would have gotten a 1% raise and no step might actually have lost money. It's clear every policeman and firefighter in Nashville would have lost money if they lived here as a result of the tax increase. We have got to do it right. It has to be a fundamentally sound approach that is multi-year, that gets us to where we need to get. What was proposed this year would have set us back, not moved us forward when it came to funding schools.
Thank you, Mayor. Representative Clemens?
Thank you. Of course, I'm the only person on this stage who supported the Bertram Mendez budget. At some point, we have to stop talking about how much we support schools and want to fund schools and actually start taking action and making the tough decisions necessary to fully fund the schools. Now, there are ways we can do that, and we've got to step up and do it. It's time we elect a mayor that's prepared to make the decisions to fund our public schools. Now, there are other ways we can find the money. We can better protect our property tax base. We're a great city, and we should start acting like one. When companies want to come to Nashville, Tennessee, we don't need to be giving away the farm and our property taxes that are the chief funding tool for our quality public schools. We also need to be demanding that these corporations wanting to move to town pay their fair share, create partnerships with our school system, invest in our public schools. They're going to be benefiting from our educated workforce. They need to have some skin in the game.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Cooper?
Increase available revenue for the city. There are other ways of doing it than a property tax, but the most important thing for this group, for the people on this stage, is to commit to more than half of our new revenue goes to schools. And in time, it will redress what has happened, that the percentage of schools in our budget has drifted down over time. To change that, you have to have a firm commitment that more than half of our new revenues goes to schools. Now, it's a little bit of a surprise because in the legislature and in our property tax and sales tax, it's really set up legally for schools to get a big percentage of that. We have to go back to that mission that more than half of our new money needs to go to schools, and in a few years we will begin to catch up again.
Thank you. Now let's welcome Reem Walde, a rising senior at Hillwood.
Hi, I'm Reem Walde. I go to Hillwood High School. And my question is, in recent years, the number of priority schools, which are the lowest performing schools in the states, have doubled in Nashville alone. With this, we now have more priority schools in Nashville than anywhere else in the state. What would you pledge to do about addressing this concern specifically?
And we'll start with Mayor Bradley and go down the line to Dr. Swain. Mayor Bradley?
So I knew this was a critical issue when I became mayor and pulled together a kitchen cabinet to look at the priority schools in Nashville. We have 21 of them. And I've been to 3 just in the last few months. You can see the ones that are making progress, and you see the ones that might not be. Now, Dr. Battle has brought in somebody new to focus on the priority schools. That's a good first step. The next step is for us to make sure that we are using our resources effectively. The 6 clusters that have most of our priority schools, they have about 35,000 seats in those 6 clusters. 10,500 of them are empty right now. So with all due respect to the board, we're not effectively utilizing our resources to address the priority schools that we have in those 6 clusters. I'm committed to working with the board and with the director of schools to make sure that we make progress there and get the resources necessary to do so.
Representative Clemens?
Thank you for this important question. Unfortunately, the mayor's kitchen cabinet didn't have any parents on it from any of those priority schools affected. What we need to do is listen more to the teachers and the parents of our students if we're going to address problems facing some of our schools. Now, these, what are called priority schools, are generally in areas where children are facing extreme poverty. They're facing extreme instances in their community that we have a duty to address as a metro government. Again, this is where it's so valuable for metro government to take ownership of those 17 hours that our children are outside the classroom. We must do a better job to address the challenges facing our children: poverty, economic inequality, access to public transportation. Until and unless we are ready to step up and address these issues in our community, our children will
Thank you,
continue
Representative Clemens.
to not perform.
Councilman Cooper?
Well, that's why. That's one of the many reasons why more than half of our new revenue needs to go to education. And we have to work with the school board, and they're going to focus on this too. I see several school board members here. They're aware of this problem. And money needs to follow the child. And the children in these priority schools needs the weighting to have the resources necessary